Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 21st, 2024 at approximately 4:29 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools that I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the exact same philosophies that I guide my own personal life with for virtually every step I take. With this in mind, I know that these tools can help you, as they do continue to help me and have helped literally thousands of other people with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before I get into it, I just noticed something. Can't picture me forgetting it. But now, before we get started here, we have, what do we got? We have Eternity Eternal in the house with the gold. And we have Storm and Shadow in with the silver, followed thereafter by Robert White with the bronze. And GLHF, welcome aboard. You're in with honorable mention. How's it going there, LA? Now, I ended up with an interesting email today. Or not exactly an email. A message sent to me via Messenger. With this in mind, there it is. With this in mind, okay, we're going to take a look and see if we can stay on topic, at least to a degree. Okay, now, who was it here? There we are. Now, I'm going to wait for the individual to show up before I say exactly who it was. But the one thing I do desire to point out. Okay, Joe, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, the thing I wanted to look at today was literally societal economics and how can we as individuals bolster them? How can we help as individuals turn the economics around from a societal standpoint? Not just, by the way, love to know why my throat's all tied. Not just for your local and your local economy, but from a global standpoint. And the thing that I've always looked at is I do get word every now and then. Okay. Oh, here's the thing, JL. We take a look at the economy now. If you watch the news, there's all this report. And I talk about the news not because I watch it, but because of what I see other people talking about. That's what it feels like there, Robert. When we take a look at the economy, most people go, "Oh, it's the global, it's societal economics. What's happening with society?" Oh, yeah, I noticed that after I hit go, and I don't know how to correct it. So, how you doing there, Chad? When we look at societal economics, take a look at the way the economy around you is. Everybody talks about inflation being up, about the world turning around, and taking a turn for the worse. Well, here's the thing. Most people look at it and go, it is this massive picture, and it's all about the big picture. The reality is that societal economics starts from a small standpoint, and it literally starts off from a personal level. if we all continue to look at the economic picture from what's going on, okay, if we look at the global picture from what is happening with the big side of things and ignore the little ones. I've mentioned before, okay, when I was growing up, I was told, take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. If we as individuals start looking in the mirror and go, or more to the point, when we as individuals look in the mirror and go, okay, I'm the one that's got direct impact. Now, granted, if you've only got a minimal income, it's not going to have a great big impact on an individual base. But, if you think about it, one person, Robert goes, down here the food taxes are on the rise. They're trying to do so for an alcoholic brewery a few towns south of here. There's a major uproar from the price hike for the turn being made. Absolutely the point. Okay. Absolutely the point there, Robert. We take a look at this. Now, we talk about the price, about economics it's getting more expensive. And, when you look at it from the simple food prices to the issue of taxes and re-taxes, etc., etc. Here's the thing. As an individual, okay, every one of you, and this literally boils down to a mindset. Every one of you is a politician. Every one of you is an economist. Okay, and it's by us controlling our own, or more to the point, guiding our own efforts, that it becomes a better option. Okay, that we can actually change things. For instance, let me ask you this. When you compare your standpoint, it seems to me mean people that have been put up on a pedestal, they're the guys that have all the money, they're the guys that have control. They're the ones that are guiding how it goes, how the world runs. Now here's the thing. I won't argue with the fact there are people with a lot more money on the market. Okay, but the moment you start seeing yourself as having the same kind of impact in your own immediate world, that's where change starts. Okay, now, yes, if somebody's got $100 million, they as individuals can make an impact. Absolutely. But we as individuals can do it as well. Okay, the biggest thing you got to look at is take a look at your own income. What are you doing with it? Because the way you control it is how things are going to shift gears. Okay, now I turned around, and where we start is a mindset. That is, quite literally, pick whatever specialist, whatever millionaire you choose, whatever well-placed superstar or economic impact person, such as we take a look at Microsoft. Okay, yes, they have a massive impact, but you do realize if you take a look at it, what is the biggest difference between you and the person and the whoever it was, I believe it would be Bill Gates, that ended up setting up Microsoft? What is the biggest difference aside from time, connections, and marketing? Okay, the biggest difference is, in all fairness, in my experience, is your belief in yourself and your own ability to have an impact. Okay, the first thing you have to look at is, do you feel, not on a global level, okay, look in your own house. Do you feel you can have a big impact inside your own home? Now, marketing is a phenomenal thing. Okay, and that's where the big kicker comes in a lot of the time. I look at the different ads that are going out. You have to have this. You have to have that. I'm telling you, this is not quite the reality behind it. If you are told often enough, like Steve Jobs did, he built a computer and he goes, "You require this." Okay, and we can list the impact of these people off time and again. The question you have to ask is, when you listen to an ad, do you really require whatever it is they're offering, or whatever it is they're telling you require? Now, it is clear. Gee, that was better. It is clear if you respond to videos or to advertisement, whatever. Okay, there is a philosophy that says, I ask you something, the more yeses I get, the more likely I am to close the deal. Now, the whole kicker to this is these people are literally, the reason they have become as wealthy as they are is because they made a simple comment. You require what I've got. Okay, and this is how much it's going to make you. And this is how little it's going to cost you. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you, when you look in the mirror, do you really require a brand new computer? Understand something very important about computers. From my understanding, okay, number one, a computer is, I've been told, can we think first? I've been told that computers themselves are about 6 months out of date by the time they ever even hit the shelf. Now, with this in mind, do you really require state of the art? It's already behind the 8 ball. You're already 6 months out of sync. The newest car is already outdated. They've got another one down the line. That getting this brand new car or this brand new state of the art, add the extra bells and whistles. Okay, is this helping you by going into debt? I'll tell you right now, not in my studies. Okay, I have come to the understanding that when you start looking in the mirror and you go, I am worth just as much as the next person. Okay, certainly not from an economic standpoint. Your wallet may well be a pocketbook. You may well have only a couple of dollars. But understand there's a lot of things you can do on that end. But as individuals, when we start looking in the mirror, okay, and we start going, do I really require that upgrade? Okay, understand cash sitting in the bank is not, you may have a decent interest rate, but I'll tell you, you have money sitting in the bank. Okay, the banks are making a lot more. Well, oh, thank you so much there, JL. I do appreciate it. We are actually looking into various things, not the least of which is getting mugs. But as I've said, I will hang on to this. Okay, this is my clipboard for making notes. Okay. I used to have somebody that could make them. I'm actually looking for people from that capacity. I look at it going, okay, how do we look at this? Now, obviously, I'm going to call it a small business. You've got a small business. If all you have is a household to run, understand running your household is a business. Your impact on your local community, on your local economics, running your household is the way to have the impact. Okay, and what I mean by running it, take a look at where you're putting your expenses. The more control you have over your own income, over your own expenses, the more of an impact you're going to have on the society around you. But like I said, first and foremost, look in the mirror and go, okay, I am an elite. And here's why you look at yourself as an elite. That's where it starts. Okay. Okay. An elite, from my understanding, the way people seem to use it, is somebody that has a direct impact on the society around you. Well, bring your society into your household. Every move you make is going to have a direct impact on the way that society evolves. Okay, on the way that little economy runs. But if you're striving to run it on a budget, okay, unless you've got a stable income that says you're getting X dollars per month, you're not going to be able to run an accurate budget. You can certainly track it accurately. You can certainly track it and adjust accordingly. Okay. Now, Jill is asking, what do you think of volunteering in community work? Now, okay. Do you do anything yourself? Now, two big factors. Okay. One, volunteering in community work, I absolutely agree with. Okay. I absolutely think it's a great way to do it. It's a great way to interact with people. And to be frank, do I ever go out of my house and volunteer in another organization? No, I actually don't. Okay. And the answer to your why not is quite simple. Okay. I look at it this way. Number one, leaving the house is problematic for me. Okay. And yes, that is a barrier I've got myself. Now, the one thing I am doing from a community standpoint is I am doing my best to take this stream, positive perceptions and positive perspectives, for as a free issue. Okay. In other words, I don't get paid for either one of these. Okay. But the idea in my heart is to help people in the community wherever I can reach them, both by direct interaction in this fashion or by satellite interaction. I pass this information on. You guys take it out to the world at large. Okay. Every time we reach out to somebody, whoops. Joe, absolutely. Let me do it now for obvious reasons. I'm not going to make the mistake of trying to do that right this second, but as soon as the stream ends, I will send it out. Just marking it down. Okay. That, as soon as we get done the stream, I will get that one sent out to you. Okay. Now the neat little part about it is this. Okay, if we look at our own economy, okay, community volunteering is extremely beneficial in a couple of fashions. Okay, and again, it will help with the with the societal economic growth, because an hour's work is still an hour that makes a job easier for other people. When you have several volunteers working together, it's going to have a direct impact. It does require coordination, okay, and people working together. But that's the whole kicker here, is by working together, we can make this a better world. We absolutely can. Okay, so the other thing that I do on top of this, I've been known to do this quite consistently as cash starts to flow properly, is I've been known to walk into a place, okay, just walk into a grocery store because I've got to go in there anyway. And I've been known to literally buy somebody's groceries to help them out so they can continue. Now, this is my idea of charity on a personal level. The reason I don't give to a registered charity is the best of the registered charities I've come across. The best of them, 30% went to the actual charity. Okay, the rest goes to administration fees. This is why, once I figure out how to get it running properly, the money that comes in, the money that I go to put into charity, which really is quite simple. I've got a certain amount that I'm looking at going, this is what I require. You as an individual can do exactly the same thing. Look at how much you require to run your household, to run your business. That gets taken care of first. Now, if as individuals, we take a look at that minimum, that stuff that you require to cover your basic living expenses, take care of you first. Now, I do agree wholeheartedly with the aspect of giving 10% of your net profit, meaning take care of your own pocket first. Now, GL, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That the newsletter would be great locally. The thing is, I made the decision. I see so much paper getting used by people, whether it's paper or whether it's digital. I see so much paper that gets printed and stacked even in my own apartment building. Okay, and I don't own it, by the way. They drop off stacks of paper, and so much of it gets dumped in the recycle bin. I'm not adding to that, which is why I said I do it strictly by direct request. Okay, that way it doesn't just go into junk mail for people. Because let's face it, if I'm just sending it out, a lot of stuff, I'm guilty of it myself. A lot of stuff goes into the spam box or into the junk box. I don't even take the time to look at it. My theory is, if you are requesting something, you're more likely to look at it. Okay, it's that simple. Now, I gotta check and see something. I did not do that. I should have got this set up right away. Where are we? There. Now, I did see Chad come into the house and I did miss this. So, this is the link to Chad's live stream. So, absolutely, drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, do give him a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and then share the daylights out of the thing. Okay. In that fashion, that's why we did that. By doing that, okay, we can have a much wider impact. Now, one thing I will, where are we? I love when I do that. What are we? There we are. Yeah, I just got a little tied up there. The reality of it is, GL, that the newsletter, as it gains momentum, we will end up with more and more people utilizing it. Okay, at present, and I'm hoping, well, I'm not hoping, I know in time it'll work. Okay, but currently, where are we? 52 and 6. We've got a whopping circulation of 58. Okay, but that said, we will in time build it to a going concern. Okay, the thing is, I'm not about to add intentionally to extra junk mail that people get to discard. The reality is people go, oh, it's free. Bad news. Okay. Yes, it's free from me to you. Absolutely. But it still requires resources to pass extra economy, which is why when you're looking at your own stuff, make sure what you're doing is economically functional. Okay, that's the biggest thing we have to look at to start with. Now, the other thing, you start seeing yourself as having a big impact on your local economy, and we're going to localize it real easy, right down to your own personal house, your own personal household, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important businesses available. Now, get this, your own personal household may be a cardboard box on the street. That may be all you've got control over. But let me ask you, aside from the obvious comparison, okay, what is the difference between somebody living on the street and the impact they have on their own economy and somebody living in $1 million home that they're paying, that they're dealing with their economy, or somebody running an international conglomerate? Okay, the principles are all literally the same. So we take a look at that and go, okay, what are you doing to affect your own economy? Let me just turn this properly. I did a whole pile of rearranging here. Okay. I did a whole pile of rearranging of my own office to get the energy streamlined, to get it moving properly. And this is one of the biggest things we have to look at regarding changing the economic, the societal economies. Each household has a direct impact, but take a look at the society from a smaller standpoint. Do your best not to look at your household against the world, because I'll tell you, you got one household, and let's just assume for a moment that that so many people. I mean, I have no idea what the average is. There are places that you've got 12, 14 people living under one roof, only one person living under another one. But look at it from an individual standpoint, one person out of 8 billion is not going to have a big impact. But when you look at your immediate community, as in your household, your business, one person does make an immediate impact on the way that economy is working. You take enough little economies in the same general area, and all of a sudden you've got an impact. Realistically, what is a river but a whole pile of drops of water moving in the same direction? Okay, and in all fairness, even they change directions regularly. Okay, water doesn't move in one direction only. If you look at the individual droplets, they're going all over the place. But overall, they're heading down one road. Same as society. Now, your effort and your view of your impact, look in the immediate. This is the biggest thing you have to look at. Okay, with your household, do you control? Because we got to take a look at economics, first of all, in this fashion. Economics, as in cash flow, works very much like water, works very much like energy. It does not get destroyed, it simply changes hands. Now, you take your money, you put it in the bank, and you go, I'm going to leave it there because it's safe. It's a great thought. But get this. Now, you put your money in a bank, and I am no economist, as in I've never been trained. But you put your money in a bank, and you're getting 4%. Let's say you've got a real good return, and you're getting 4% out of your bank. Your bank takes that 4%, because they're better connected, they make 22. Now, are they better people than you? Not in the slightest. They have simply figured out how to leverage their own efforts. And I'm telling you, working with your neighbors, working with the people you're around, okay, you can have a direct impact on your neighborhood as well. But we start with the household. You are the head of a corporation, okay? You are the head of a business. Even if all you're doing is, and I use that term really loosely, if all you're doing is running your house, okay, every decision you make has a direct impact on how that house is going to run, whether it is going to become more profitable or it is going to become less profitable. That decision. GL, here's the funny thing. People talk about inflation, okay, and you are right. You do lose out on inflation, but here's the thing. The people that are poor and struggling never notice the inflation. They're already struggling. The ones that hits the hardest from the people I've talked to are the ones that are living above their means. No matter what their income, they're living above their means. Now, the thing is this. Inflation could be stopped overnight by a stroke of the pen by any government. Doesn't matter where. Now, the odds of this happening virtually non-existent, but you do have control over it in your house. Again, with a simple decision, you can curb your own spending. There's this neat little thing about we're told, you listen to the marketing, and we are told you need all this new stuff. You need all this this wonderful stuff because it'll make it easier. Let me ask you, okay, 100 years ago, the mail was delivered by horseback. Now, I don't know about in your country. I do know in Canada and presumably the United States, it used to take by horseback to go from one coast to the other 1 week. Okay, today we have all this technology that you're being told works so much better. And if that's the case, then why, pray tell, does it take a month to travel from one end of the world to the other, from one end of the country to the other? Sometimes inside the same city. Okay, to me, this is not an economic improvement. Okay, now, in your case, take a look in your own house. You have one or two choices, especially where economy is set up. You can either wait if you're living beyond your means. There is something to be said about cutting back, but I'd like to point a different thing out here. By you watching what you're spending. In my case, I was going through $300 to $400 a month on eating out. I had the choice of staying home. It was easier, and the marketing said, "Oh, you go to a restaurant, it's easier. You don't have to. It takes less effort. Certainly, it does. But what's the cost?" Now, I'm looking at my house. I rearranged the office to get the energy running smoothly. I now have my office, and you can't see it very well because the stuff I was doing was all over here. Okay, out of sight of the screen. Absolutely, it is, GL. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with eating out, but curb what you're doing. Now, your two choices are this: you're living beyond your means. In other words, you're struggling to make ends meet. Now, your two options: either do as we're told, cut back, and you get this. Cut back on what you're spending, but you really need this newest little trinket. Now, right there. This neat little thing here. You're told the newest cell phone is out with the newest bells, the newest whistles. You need these new bells and whistles. Do you really? Okay, that's the thing you got to ask yourself. Do you really require those new bells and whistles? As we know, with technology, much of it Joe, as near as I understand it, the Old West ended somewhere, and somebody out there undoubtedly has a better answer than this. My understanding is somewhere around 1880, 1890 is when the Old West really started to wind down. Okay, it wasn't that long ago. Might be longer than that. But the point being, the idea was very simple. People got up, they moved, they desired something done, they got up and did it. It was not a question of what's the easiest way of doing it. It was a question of how do I get ahead? Okay, how do I make ends meet? Joseph, how you doing? Glad you could join us. There you go. Joseph goes, I have the $29 Walmart special phone with the cheapest unlimited plan. Absolutely the idea. When I had to go and get a new phone, this one is, I think, about five changes behind, but it still does exactly what I require. Now, you go back 100 years ago, people were, by the time they were in their early teens, they were running their own companies. They were taught, get up and make a move. Now you run your own economy in your own home. Okay, you run the economy from your own household. Okay, and any change you make is going to have a direct impact. It will determine whether you've got a surplus, whether you're behind the eight ball. Your two choices: either cut back on what you're spending, which, by the way, can only work for so long. There is a bottom line where you can no longer cut back anymore. And that is where we have to take a look at the other side of it and go, what's your other option? If you can no longer cut back anymore, what is the other option? Well, before I let anybody wander around with that one, the option is find a way to utilize your current income in a more effective fashion. Okay, 3/4 of that can be done by literally talking to your neighbor. Okay, for instance, if you yourself cannot afford a full loaf of bread because of inflation or whatever, okay, yeah, the reality of it is maybe you can only afford a loaf and can't afford a loaf of bread, but joining up with your neighbor, okay, you can go and combine your efforts and get a better deal. This is what the bigger corporations do. They combine the money that's coming in to get a better deal. Okay, now we're going to cover that in pretty short order here, like within the next minute or two. Yeah, Joseph goes, I know the desert and can get most of my food from there. That for you, Joe, really works well. For me, I know the desert too. In all honesty, in Kelowna here where I am, our desert is right smack inside city limits. Okay. And much as a lot of what is in the desert is edible, there is no way I'm going to have to look for it. Primarily because I'll get lost. Okay. But it's creative thinking like that, though, that is going to make the difference. And you got to remember the other thing. If you're utilizing the tools that you have, the understanding and the wisdom that you've gleaned yourself, okay, maybe you got taught as a child how to hunt properly, maybe you got taught how to harvest properly. By utilizing that, you're going to save yourself a lot of hassle. Okay, the reality is working together, we can actually have the impact. Now, I love the way it was put in A Bug's Life. One ant isn't going to make a big difference, but 100 ants working together can make one heck of an impact. Okay. And I'm not talking about boycotting or overturning or, overthrowing anybody. I'm talking about working together with the system the way it is. The system itself is designed decently. The operation of it, you've been taught you can't do it. Well, let me ask you this. Does a millionaire still require food? Okay. A millionaire or a pauper still require food. Okay. They can buy more of it. They can buy more specialty cuts, if you will. But realistically, if you take a look at it, okay, there are a lot of ways of cutting back, of making ends meet a lot more effectively. Okay. And again, like I see in the chat room, we've got a little bit of a conversation about splitting a bag of beans. Okay. Again, a bag of rice would go a long way. And if a couple of you get together, a couple of your friends get together, and instead of each buying just a pound of rice, okay, you go out for the same price, essentially, you can get a larger quantity and then split it evenly. Now, this is just simple mathematics, okay, based on the current economy. The bigwigs, the so called elites, they are elites because people say, oh, you're so much better than I am. I don't look at elites. Honestly, Joseph, to be frank, only very vaguely. Okay. I do, I remember a little bit of it. Joseph just asked if I remember the story of Stone Soup. You know, and I do know that way back in the dark ages, you used to look at it and go, okay, what can I do to add a little bit of flavor? This is why things were done the way they were, was people were striving to get ahead. Well, I'm not suggesting going back to the dark ages. They were an interesting time, but not one I recommend. However, if you start looking at it, if you look at yourself and go, okay, I can run my household. And bear in mind, a community does not have to be the neighbor right next door to you. In today's world, because of the amount of communication that technology has brought about, that amount of interaction means your community can be spread across the entire world. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thanks very much for clarifying that. That is, the LA is just going, everyone added something to the soup. Everyone ate as well. And what that means is everybody gets off their tail feathers, does what they can. Maybe the person that really knows how to cook well doesn't have the money or the wherewithal to contribute to the pot. But they've got the ability to take all of the ingredients and put them in the pot to turn out a very tasty, a very nutritious meal. That's their contribution. Exactly. He had not the type you smoke. Because I'll tell you, aluminum burns great, but it's lousy to inhale. The idea of a potluck supper. Everybody brings something and everybody gets bits and pieces out of that something. When you look at that, this is a question of the community, however spread out it is. Now, right now, this community here inside Positive Perceptions is stretching from Australia to England to the southern United States. I've seen people come through here from all over the world. Okay, and obviously we start with Canada because, well, frankly, that's where I am. That's the only reason we start with Canada. Okay, because this is where I am. But my community is a lot bigger. It is already global. And the more we see that as a community, as the as a society. This here is a society of its own. Okay, those people that you're looking at in the chat room, those are your neighbors. Okay, those are the people we're talking about interacting with. Now, yes, you may never see them face to face. But what you will do, what you do see with the ones in the chat room, is you do hear from them. You do hear their points of view. And I do my best to read it out so that I can share what they're saying. And I just read it directly. Okay. But it is by interacting with each other that we're going to have that impact. If all of you start working together, maybe Walmart is the company that you guys go to. I personally don't, but maybe it is the company you go to. So a bunch of you guys that are local to each other pitch in, and instead of each of you buying a pound of rice, you put your money together and you split it up. If 3 of you contribute, okay, and I didn't do the research to double check on prices. Okay, but you get the idea. When you buy in bulk, you get a better price. You also, by the way, there you go. Joseph goes and he uses Sam's Club. Okay, and the neat part about it is this. Okay, here's the other side, and this again has a direct impact on the societal economy. Okay, let's not forget, your garbage, your waste products are something that has to be taken care of by society as a whole. Now, if 4 of you go out and buy a 1 pound bag of rice, okay, you all have a 1 pound bag that has to be dealt with. Well, unfortunately, plastic doesn't decompose very well. We know this, okay, but each one of you goes out and add four bags to contain that rice. But if you go out together and you combine your resources and you buy a bigger package and then just separate it amongst you, you all get more rice. You'll all get more rice, which means you're all cutting back on the expenses you're having, and you're cutting back on the waste that is hitting the societal recycle bin, or the societal garbage dump. Okay, because you're working together, you're cutting down on it. In this way, as an individual, you're having a direct impact. Yeah, Joe goes, farmers used to do that all the time. And you'll notice the term used to. We have been taught so heavily to fear everybody around you. It's every man for themselves. It's, self-satisfaction right off the bat. Now, I absolutely agree. Okay, you must be true to you first. You must take care of your own requirements before you start taking care of everybody else's. But let me ask you this. If you can get, for the same amount of money, if you can get more of a given product, is that not taking care of yourself? Okay. Is that not a way of taking care of your own society? Your society, your community being right in your own home to start with, or right in the connection with your local neighbors. Okay. And the reason I say the local ones in this case is because, we take Joe's example of Sam's Club. Okay. I don't even have a Sam's Club in my area. Yeah. Joe's going, they call it buying co-op. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. But the big co-op organizations, in all fairness, Joe, I think you may well be onto something. Let me just see here. I'm just writing this down to see where it fits. Whoop. Would you look at that? The reality of it is when we look at the old methods, and this is why I say if you know anybody that has lived through a severe depression, okay, and I mean an economic depression, okay, talk to them on how they compensated. Okay, if you've gone through it yourself. Yeah, LA goes, I do a lot of things the old way. Because I know it works and I know how. And that's the whole kicker to it. Okay. And this is what I'm referring to is talking to the people around you. Okay. This idea of turning around and going, okay, we've got to work together. Absolutely, we do. Okay. And if you've got somebody that you can combine your resources for, okay, with, you will be able to take care of your own immediate economy. Number one, you got to remember in your economy, in your immediate area, as in your household, you are the elite. You are the mega corporation. You are the head of the political party. Okay, you're the one in control of it. So start on the local side. Then, as you get your life in order, reach out to other people. And this is what I'm looking at here. This is why I ended up rearranging things here to clear the energy flow up. Okay. And right now, you don't see a lot of change behind me because of the fact that I had to start with the stuff right on this wall. That was a great show. Joe goes, the days of future past. This is one of the things we have to look at is the old methods worked. But marketing said we got to be faster. We got to get instant gratification. The less work you have and that you do to get ahead, the better off you are. Hence, we have all these medications coming out that go, sit on your tail feathers, take this one product, and it will make you lose weight. I'll tell you, it may well work. In my case, it tried causing a heart attack. Okay, now, what you've got to start looking at is your own door. Absolutely, LA. But let me ask you this. LA goes, advertising work off fear and fear of lack. So let me ask you this, and this is why, never mind my own outlook on life. The reason I call this positive perceptions, in all fairness, that was LA's suggestion. Okay, because I knew we had to come up with a name for the live stream, and I'm not perfect at doing things yet. Okay, I am getting better at the idea of advertising ahead of time. The funny thing is, Joseph is absolutely correct. We're in a very generous universe. And here's the neat thing. It will give you exactly what you request. Okay. If you go, I want such and such, I want a higher income. Well, here's the funny part about wanting. You're creating a sense of want. You're creating that kind of energy. Remember the karmic law. Energy out, energy in. If you put out the energy of I want such and such, you're creating an energy and putting forth an energy of lack and thereby getting it back. Well done. The Victorian era was an interesting time, and there were things that let's face it, modern tech has done wonders for. And I'm not knocking the moguls by any means. Okay, I'm really not. As a matter of fact, I'm applauding them. If it weren't for somebody like Henry Ford, who figured out, as far as I understand it, And he undoubtedly was not the only one, but he figured out how to go into mass production. Okay, same thing in a household. If the people in a household work together, there is an old saying that comes from way back that goes, many hands make light work. Okay, and the reason for that is because everybody focuses on it and out it comes. Okay, same thing with your own economy, with your own, with your own society. Start in your own household. Is everyone in the household doing their part? Preferably voluntarily. But if they're not doing it voluntarily, whoever is stepping up to the plate, and that's not always the parents, by the way. Sometimes it's a child that says, we got to do this differently. And they're the ones that initiate it. There is no age that you have to be before you can have a good idea. Okay. But individuals coming up with an idea that you haven't tried before or that you haven't experienced, absolutely, now is the time to start altering the way we're doing it. Okay. But it's up to you. And it literally boils down to, are you content with the way your world is going right here, right now? If the answer is yes, absolutely stay on track. Okay, I turned around, looked at the way my office was running, and went, I'm too crowded, especially along this wall here. Okay, I was so jammed together that everything was tight. It's now been cleared up and moved. Same thing applies to you. Now, when you look at your income, because this is where economics comes into play. Okay, economics boils down to income. Okay, into the cash flow, as in money in, money out. Now, let me ask you, are you, in your eyes, making the most use of that? Okay, are you making the best use of your cash flow, of your time, to modify your cash flow? And do understand something. Cash, I'm told, money is the root of all evil. Fear is the root of all evil. Okay, in all fairness, we can go back. If we take love and fear, they're opposite sides of the same coin. But the question is, which one are you going to focus on? Are you going to focus on your lack, or are you going to focus on the situation and what you can do to enhance your situation? This is done by opening communication lines. This is done by reaching out to each other and giving each other a hand up, not a hand out. Okay, am I likely to go down to, for instance, the food bank and stand there and bag food for people? Okay, the answer is no. But that said, I'm also not going to condemn anybody that does. If you don't have anything to do, it is far better to get up and get out of the house and go and volunteer at a food bank to help separate food that comes in and get it to the people that require it. That is to sit on your tail feathers and do nothing. Okay, the people that are in the big corporations, the people that are at the top of a society based on their standing, those people are ones, they didn't all come by, it wasn't a handout. Most of them worked their tail feathers off for their entire life. Okay, now, I spent my entire life literally hiding from the world. Okay, literally hiding from life. Question, are you doing the same thing? Are you hiding from the world? Now, as a reclusive individual myself, I can tell you, staying in the house does avoid a lot of problems, but it also avoids a lot of benefits. This is why we have to start looking in the mirror at, what does my life look like? Am I content with the flow of energy? Am I content with the way that I feel? And am I content with what I'm looking at? Okay, now granted, I don't, when I look at the blunt side, I do not always shave. Not by any means. I do prefer a clean shaven face, but admittedly, like many of you, I'm lazy in some ways. Lazy in lots of ways. But when you look at your own efforts, that's how we change as individuals the modern economy, the societal economic outlay. If you're not looking at that, if you're just looking, if you're just doing the idea of I'm going to ignore the world and wait till it collapses, you're in for a neat little non-shock. If everybody sits back and waits for the government, the elites, the religious people, the moguls, if you wait for somebody else to change your life, you're on the bottom of their list. Okay, get it straight. The ones that are at the top are already looking out for their own means and for their own requirements before they ever touch anybody else. This is why when somebody they open a and this is just my personal opinion, okay, which is why I won't open a non-profit organization myself. Okay, people open a non-profit organization to avoid paying taxes, which I can understand. I absolutely can. Okay, but to me, the key is in the word non-profit. Okay, I give away as much as I can, which is why I've got the live stream for free, why I've got the newsletter for free. Okay, as a matter of fact, I finally figured out the difference between a newsletter and a magazine. Okay, so I went down to my printer, who happens to be a graphic designer, and asked her to turn around and produce something for me. Now, come to think of it, just checking something because she asked me a very important little factor here. Where are we? Okay, I do not have it, but that's okay. I've got it here. So she is in the middle of designing the front cover. And like I told her, it's digital. So she's dealing with that. But in my experience, the difference between a newsletter and a magazine is literally cosmetic. Okay, my research says that a newsletter is somewhere between 5 and 10 pages, or no, a magazine can be anything between 5 and 10 pages and up. Okay, so I'm looking at it going, okay, I don't have a problem there. Oh, yeah, Joseph, I have no doubt about that at all. And I do appreciate that. There are people all over the world that can produce high quality books. And I'm going to make a note of that for one little detail. Where are we here? And again, this is why I keep this neat little pad. Because as I get things organized, I definitely am going to be looking to getting many of my books translated into other languages. And of course, the reality is, Joe's saying, I have contacts in India that can produce high quality books cheaply. Okay. The reason I stick with the printer I've got is I walk in and go, I require this desired, this change done right now. And I deal face to face as much as I can. But I will absolutely, I've got you listed there, Joe. I will absolutely reach out to you about just what can be done. Okay, the one thing I am very cautious of is spending money at this point. I've already done the brilliant thing. I bought into the advertising of the moguls. Oh, give us X number of dollars. We can do this. Thus far, my experience has proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that in my case, every time I've done that, it's cost me money and had no results. However, I have not quit by any stretch. Okay, and this is why. Well, gotta take my glasses off so I can actually read. Here we go. That way I can look into it as soon as as I get things moving in the right direction. Oh, nice, Joe. And this is why, Nathan and I are working towards making contact in a lot of fronts on that end. Because in my eyes, it's real simple. This stream, okay, is a community unto itself. Okay. Now I've got a local artist that's working on book covers for me. I've also got I've got an artist in England and another one in Texas. And somebody was getting me in touch with somebody. Oh, I'm waiting for contact. It might be saying in my email right now. Somebody else is going to send a contact to me about another artist because I got a lot of work coming up. And the thing is, when you take a look in your house, your community, your society, that's where you have the biggest impact. Okay. You have, if you're living on your own, 100%. Oh, there we go, LA. Like I said, may well be saying in my email. Yeah, I appreciate that, LA. When I get done, as a matter of fact, I've got to because I know I've got things I'm working on. Where are we? Because the thing is, and I mentioned this the other day. Now, your community, your society may well be on the verge of erupting in a very positive fashion if we start putting the effort into it. Okay. When you look in your own house and when you look in that society, you've got 100% impact on how that society grows. Now, you may well be sitting on the edge of an absolute economic explosion in your own home. Okay. I know in my home, we absolutely are. Okay. But it's requiring effort on all of our parts to make it happen. And what we have to realize is the more you reach out, the larger the society you're counting as your society, the less of an impact an individual will have. However, all of those people working together can make a staggering impact. Okay, now I've mentioned in the past that I frequent a restaurant named Wings up here in Kelowna. Okay, they went through an ownership change, and it was a little bumpy. I finally got to meet the owner today. Okay, and they're working things out. Now, I already know. Okay, I already know without a thought that they are getting their community sorted around. Now, I'm not going to be spending the same amount of money there that I used to. I have decided that's a bad idea. Net result, I've brought my economy back into my own home. And this is the same issue here. Okay. When we take a look at societal economics, when you're dealing with a bigger society, one of the things I strongly recommend, and this is literally talking to your local government, get the governments to get the governments, get the corporations to bring the production home. Okay, yes, it may cost a little more to do it in one hand, but the impact Whoa, how you doing? I'm glad you could join us. One of the neat little things here is when you're working in a society, you bring production home. Okay, you're going to bolster your own economy, which is why I'm looking at Christmas this year, at Christmas gifts, that sort of thing. I am making or adjusting myself, many of them in the house. Okay, in my house. Now I could go out and buy all the newest trinkets and newest fandangled thingies. Okay, just like everybody, just like all the advertising says, buy this new thing. Now, granted, there is no way I'm building a computer for anybody. Okay, I'm just not building a computer for anybody. Electronics and I don't get along well. Computers do have a place. Absolutely. I mean, take a look at it. If it weren't for computers, I wouldn't be sitting here. But that said, the more you can do at home, the better off you are. And the more you work with your local community, with your local society, the bigger an impact you can have. Now, here's a neat little thing. Let's say you've got, and again, I'm going to pull it into the local because the local side of it is this. You can pitch together more easily to help people in your own community, right in the local area, than you can people on the other side of the world. Okay, I mean, yes, you can certainly ship money. And this is why we have finally at the top of the chat room, we've got that buy me a coffee link. You can ship money and it does help if it is used properly. Okay, right now, all of the money that has been donated, and thank you so much for those of you that have done that. All of it is currently sitting still in that account. I've got a definite plan set in place of what to do with it as it grows. Okay, but it's a question of looking in the mirror and going, okay, my society starts with my house, my home. Okay, and then you expand it to the where you've got the international side where we've got the internet. Your society may well include people all over the world. And he goes, oh my goodness, my Bob dog just asked for petting. Took him long enough to come around. Now now you gotta remember, all members of your society, all members of your societal location may not be human. Okay. In the case of a Bob dog, okay, still part of the economy, still part of the society, still has effort that he can put in. Now, you may have fun trying to get him to do something. Okay. And if you think dogs are rough again to do something, try training a cat. And good luck with that idea. But all members of a society are doing part. You know, even this little guy here is still doing his part. In his case, clearing up the air. Best air filtration system available. And he's alive. Okay. But we take a look at society. The thing is, most people, the moment you say societal interaction, okay, most people, when you talk about society, go, we're talking about the country or we're talking about the city. And that's where you're overextending yourself. Look at your society as your household and the people you're in contact with. On the internet side of it, on the tech side, the intellectual side, the internet is all of those connections you have, all of your friends, all of your contacts. That is your technological society. Okay, but it's the ones right in your neighborhood that are the real impact. They are the where you can have the biggest immediate physical impact on society, okay, on societal economics. You just have to pare down the size of what you're seeing as your society. Now, hopefully this is making sense. Okay, I look at this and it always bothers me when I look at this sort of thing. LA's just going, he was badly abused. The moment we talk about abuse, so many people go, well, they're being abused physically. But what would you do if I told you that the way you're being taught to handle your finances, to focus on instant gratification, you're being abused by the marketing moguls, by the people that know how to market? Okay, I'm no marketing mogul. All I know is you follow karmic law. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay, so in my case, I'm going, here's the tools. Now, these are the same tools I personally am using. And yes, I have repeated myself multiple times and will undoubtedly continue to do so. By the way, when we are talking about society, this applies to every species I've ever encountered, every race, every type of entity that I've ever encountered. Society is still the same. Now, in my understanding, with well over 100,000 clients over the years, people on the whole, okay, and I'll stick to just humans for the moment, okay, people on the whole live inside a 9-block square area, regardless of their income, regardless of their financial state, okay, and regardless of their location. They still live inside that area. Okay, most of it is done there. In my case, I live in about a 5-block square area. Maybe. I've got a couple of satellite areas a little outside. Okay, but all of you, figure it out. Take a look at where you're living. Where is the bank you deal with? Okay, where is the grocery store you usually go to? Okay, where are your friends located? The ones you actually see. Okay, compare the location, I mean the ones you actually see physically. Okay, this is the size of your society. Is on the whole, around the world, on the whole, your society is likely about 9 blocks square. In other words, 9 blocks by 9 blocks. Okay, and obviously square it off, 9 blocks by 9 blocks. Okay, making 81 square blocks is on average where people are operating. Take a look at your own and see if you fit in the same thing. Okay, now I intend on doing one thing beyond that. Okay, and in my opinion, every newsletter, every newscast, everybody that works in this particular field, okay, has the same responsibility. Focus on the positive side of things, and you'll find a much happier society around you. If you propagate fear, if you propagate loss, if you propagate lack of, what you've got is a society curled up in the corner going, I'm afraid to open my eyes. I can't get out of bed because everything's going to go wrong. Now, you can do what you will with it. Okay, but if you desire to participate in changing societal economics on a literal global level, then we all get together. I mean, you think about it. We have right now 600 subscribers. Okay, so just where's my math? Just a curiosity thing. If we go 600 times 81, which is 81 square blocks times 600 people. Okay, you're looking at 48,600 blocks of people that are being affected by what we're doing right here. Okay, every comment you guys make where you put in something that you feel is beneficial, okay, that may help somebody. Every one of you that says anything of a positive nature, you're affecting, and don't take my word, do your own math. 600 times 81, 48,600 square blocks. Okay, every positive thing you say has that kind of potential. Okay, now yes, there's a little bit of overlap because some of you may live within in that space. Okay, but for the purposes of the numbers, that's what I'm looking at. Now here's a neat little kicker. Okay, that's what we've got for subscriptions. If we increase that by what I was talking about that my uncle told me regarding mice. Okay, we take that 600, we've actually got 3,600 times 81 based on probable listeners. Okay, and all of a sudden we go from 48,000 square blocks to 291,600 square blocks of impact. This is what I mean by we are poised on the edge of a precipice where we can change this world for the better. Okay, but it's going to require working together. But the whole catch to it is look at your society, as in your household and the immediate people around you. Get to know those immediate people, and all of a sudden you're going to start having an impact a lot bigger. You'll notice the area around you all of a sudden starts to bolster. Like there's a street in my city, okay, not very far from me, that 10 years ago, the police would not drive down that street without two cop cars during the day. Now, apparently, half the block is all family. The people that were problem children have been moved out of the area. My own apartment block used to have the cops in here every day, virtually, dealing with drug sales, with illegalities. Now you see the cops when somebody has a heart attack. Okay, when they bring them over with the ambulance. So, things are changing and this society is improving in spite of what you've been told. But, or maybe because of what you've been told. But when you start looking at the society as a much more localized size, then you're going to have a much bigger impact. You only count four neighbors. Okay, if you only take those four houses and you go, that's the society we're working on improving. You guys talk to your neighbor, find out what they're lacking, pitch in and help each other. And all of a sudden, your guys' neighborhood is going to start looking better, running better, feeling better. You get the picture. This is how we as individuals can have a direct impact on the societal economics. Economics, by the way, is not just money. Okay, economics is the entire energy field around your finances, around your well-being. And I mean energy levels, financial levels, spiritual levels, it's all interlinked. Okay, and the higher that energy runs, the less depression people around you are going to be feeling. Think of it this way. You've got a neighbor that for whatever reason cannot, they just physically are no longer capable of doing the yard work, but they're still capable of baking. Okay, you get a community exchange going, right? And what happens is all of a sudden you're looking at energy being transferred between the house, and both parties start benefiting. And it's by us working together, walking hand in hand, focusing on this sharing side, okay, that is going to have that impact. Now I gotta look. I'm just curious what today is because I lost. Oh, this is Wednesday. I was thinking today was Saturday, which might give you an idea of the way my world goes. Now, got a question for you. Okay, when we look at it, okay, now some of you have come up with ideas, but what are some of the ways you guys feel that you can help your local society, your local group of people, your local community? Okay, now I realize some of you may not even know your neighbors, but let's face it, there is no time, well, there is a time like the present. You don't go out in the middle of the night and start knocking on doors. Talk to people during the day when they're awake, far more receptive than if you wake them up in the middle of the night. Okay, but what are some of the ways that we can that we can working together start to impact the society on a more direct pace? Understanding, I know in my case, I've got ratios set out where yes, I have to cover overhead. You have a business yourself. That business may be nothing more. And in all fairness, that's a lousy way to put it. Your business may just be running your household. Okay. That has to be taken care of before you start taking care of everybody else. If you don't, you're likely to run into a problem and create a burden, an extra burden. Okay, this is why I say it is so important to really assess where you're standing. But in order to adjust to society, take it from looking at the country or the world you're living in. There is, in my opinion, no such thing as a third world country. Not for mankind yet. Okay, everybody on this world, on this planet, is in a first world country because you're all on the first world we have. Okay, it's that simple, quite frankly. But when we take a look at it, okay, what can you do? Okay, what can you do to help the community right around you? Now, it'll be different from one site to the next. Absolutely it will. And this is why part of my community is literally the local grocery store I go to. And like I said, I've been known when I've got the extra cash to literally buy somebody's groceries. Now that may seem like a small thing, but in that individual's case, it can be a huge thing. Okay, it may be the difference between going hungry and having something on the table. Maybe not state of the art. May not be the prime cut of meat. Maybe all you can do is buy hamburger. Now, it's funny because I was just thinking about myself. Okay, I just got to double check the prices. Okay, because it may prove to be cheaper to buy a roast and grind it myself into hamburger. I've already got a grinder. Okay, takes a little longer, but it may be cheaper to buy a full roast and then grind it down to hamburger than it is to buy the hamburger itself. And I'm sitting here talking about this, going, why, pray tell, am I not doing this? Oh, I know. It's easier to buy hamburger. Oh, there you go. LA goes, I always make a point of taking a new neighbor a plate of cookies or a casserole meal. It opens communication, lets them see we're there if needed and we'll be there if necessary. No push, no meddling. Absolutely. And you know, LA, that's why you have good, great neighbors, is because you reach out. Now, granted, I'm not cruel enough to take my cooking over to the neighbor. This is just a bad idea. But most of the people, when they move into my apartment, I end up meeting them on the doorstep as they're moving in to welcoming them to the neighborhood. Like you, I have good neighbors, very few problems here. But it's because, LA, you've already got the idea that open communication and an open-handed approach does help with the neighborhood. You're one of one of the leading few that already got that message. I'm absolutely certain there are a great many people in this chat room that do similar things. Okay. So when we take a look at this, it is a community effort. Okay. And as individuals, we have direct impact way more than you might think. Let me ask you this. Okay. You take a look at the economic moguls, okay, the big companies. Yes, they've got more control over their own finances, certainly. Yeah. Yeah, but Joe, you got a cemetery back there. That always makes it fun. Joe goes, "Oh, I don't even go back behind my house after it gets dark. Heck, I don't go behind my house during the light. I don't recall the last time I was out in the backyard of my apartment. On the other hand, the reality is, as you get to know the people around you, the reality is the better the communication lines, the better the interaction. And the better the interaction, the better the economy in that society. One of the most effective ways that I've found over the years of cutting down on the criminal activity in your neighborhood is getting to know your neighbors. And yeah, I know some of you live in places where it's just plain normal that you get shot by sticking your head outside the door. Okay, this is terrible. This is a lousy way to live. Okay, and I'd love to say, oh, it gets better. In several thousand years, I've seen things come and go where society gets better and then it goes worse again. And it all depends on who ends up in the control seats of whatever economic situation is going on. That's where it boils down to. You yourself, starting today, take dominant control of your finances. Take dominant control of the energy flow in your house. Okay, one thing I strongly recommend, and frankly, I'm sadly lacking in this myself, okay, is you should pick one meal a week. Preferably one meal a day. Whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, doesn't matter. But at the bare minimum, pick one way of improving the economy in your society. We keep it to a small society, and it will have a much bigger impact. Okay, now it's up to you as to whether you're going to do this. All I can tell you is this is what I've seen work. Yeah, isn't that the truth there, LA? LA's going, I've lived in rough neighborhoods, but I've always noticed that when I work in my yard or the plot, that sounds bad, the rest of the neighborhood starts clearing up too. It's what I call the echo effect or the ripple effect. The moment people start greeting each other politely, it carries over. It may not affect everybody. Okay, you may not get a greeting out of everybody you meet, but you'll get more greetings out of people by greeting them first than you will if you don't say a word. Okay, a smile will go a staggering distance. Okay, in the areas that I go into, I've got one store I go into. I literally go in to say hi, and I've told them flat out, I'm not buying anything here. It's a pet shop. I'm not allowed to have a pet in my apartment. So no problem. I still go in because they're decent people. But this is how we make an impact on the societal economy. Where are we here? Nathan, how are you? Glad you could join us. And again, we have to find this. This is right here. This is the link to Nathan's show. And we go copy that. We pop that in here. And here you go. Drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, give him a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of it. Okay. we unfortunately had a little bit of a problem here. Okay, I sent out a book and it was stolen. Okay, now I know for an absolute certainty with the evidence I was presented, it was not the Postal Service that did it. They delivered it properly, but somebody else decided they needed the book more than the other person. Oh, fantastic, Nathan. You know, Nathan's just sharing his Topaz vehicle is now better. So I'm presuming this means you can fire it up and drive it now. And again, for me, if I had a vehicle that was broken, I'd be looking at it going, well, what am I supposed to do with that except take it to a mechanic? Topaz drives but needs a water pump. Oh yeah, that was the one you're rebuilding from the bottom, isn't it? For me, I'm lucky if I can fill the gas tank properly. So I'm quite happy there. That's terrible, Joe. That really is. But again, when we're looking at individuals' impact on societal economics, the trick is to pare down the size of the society. Instead of looking at your society as the size of the country, look at the size of your immediate community. Okay, I look at my society on the electronic side of it, this stream and all the contacts I've got. Okay, this is my societal economy. Okay, locally it's a lot tighter. Oh, there you go. Oh, I may as well ask you because I keep forgetting to ask you. Nathan, I know you said you've got a printer. Okay, as in 3D. Can you by any chance make coffee cups? I might just, like I said, I would rather work with people I know than work with people I don't. Okay. And yes, agreed. Okay. Agreed. That there's a lot of people out there that may be able to do it cheaper, etc. But the fact of the matter is, if I focus on the little people, okay, as in not the major corporations, yeah, they may have a much wider thing. Oh, Nathan goes, I can make a cup, but it won't be waterproof. But I have a method. Oh, you always do it with the appropriate markup. Okay, the thing is, if I can find an economic way of working with locals or with people that I know, I will do it that way. Now, this is the way that conversation is going in the chat room. I love it because the reality is that's an area that is completely outside my ability, but it's something I'm looking into. And again, if I can pass that on and bolster somebody else's pocket instead of bolstering one of the big box companies, I will absolutely do that. It may cost a little more, but the societal impact is far greater in a much more positive stand. Okay, like I look at it very simply, and that is literally to be able to figure out what it's going to cost me. Okay, and make that as economic as I can get it. The reality is, I don't have to there's a lot I don't have to be done. Yeah, and that is exactly where we have to look. Joseph goes, I have Tinkerbell on the printer right now. See, I don't even have a paper printer right now because I blew the last one apart. Yeah, and that's the thing, Nathan. And especially if we start looking at the economics, small victories are what make big victories. Okay, people say the hardest step is that first one. It's not. When you look at steps to success, the first one is easy. Okay, well, not easy, but the first one everybody makes. The second one is more often than not, the second step is a case of catching your balance. The third step is the one that makes you go forward. Okay, and we are currently in the process of expanding. Okay, and the society around you is ready to expand. I'm going to spill my coffee. Not a good idea. The society you're involved in, okay, is ready to expand. I don't know about you, but let me ask you this. I know I'm ready. Are you ready to have your society improve? Are you ready to have the economics in your community start to improve, start to climb? Or are you content with them being stuck in the path they're in? You know, from my end, this is a question of reaching out. Remember what I said I was going to build an empire? That is, I'm building it. I'm looking for people, and I will start with the people in this chat room. Okay. In all fairness, I've started with people outside the chat room, but that's because I know who they are. Um, so when we look at the economy, the little things you're doing, they may seem tiny, okay, but the smallest bolt in in an engine is absolutely imperative, okay, and that's why they say the weakest link, your equipment, your society, your plan is only as strong as the weakest link. Okay, this is just the reality behind it. Yeah, isn't it fun that you've got activity going on there, Nathan? You know, I do like hearing about Joe's activity out behind his house. I mean, think of it this way, Joe. You're really lucky about one little aspect. They tend to stay in the graveyard instead of coming into your house. Yeah, well, unfortunately, Nathan, not everybody that comes in is necessarily nice. Okay, I will tell you this. We could certainly focus on all the bad things going on. I don't see the point. I really don't. But I am looking at this world going, how do we change it? Well, we don't change it by looking at, okay, we've got a country of 35 million people or whatever it is. I don't know what the population is in Canada. I do know 1 out of 35 million is lousy ratios. But in my household, okay, I got 3, working on a 4th. Oh, there you go. Honestly, they do, LA. And this is why I say if you look at people from past lives, okay, as they go through life, their core person, the soul itself, is what dictates what they're like. Okay. And this is one of the ways of figuring out how things go. And this is why I really have to say a big thank you to Nathan. The meeting, the show we did, really answered a lot of questions in my end. Like many of you, I've been sitting there going, why don't things fit? Yep. It feels like I'm so far ahead of my time that I'm behind it. As it turns out, I'm actually not from ahead of my time. I just remember a different life. Now we just have to schedule something to do a carryover on it. But that's to you, Nathan. But by changing the way that we're working, okay, by changing what we're focusing on, we can, as individuals, have a direct impact on the society around you, on the economics of the society you're living in. But when you pare down the society, just take a look at a smaller sample of it. Okay, you may not have a direct connection to the local mayor. Maybe you do. If he's part of your own local community, you could have a much bigger impact than somebody that isn't connected to the mayor. And Nathan goes, coffee makes the paranormal work. I like the way you put that. And then it goes, click link, send a coffee. And I gotta admit, Coffee Man works very well. And I started off a little strange today. Forgot where I put my coffee cup. So I ended up with 2 cups of coffee. Okay. I had one filled, forgot where I put it, so I went and filled the second one. So I'm actually working on 2 cups of coffee right now. But you take a look at the society, and like I said, I will let people know. Well, yeah, there's only one drawback. Here's the drawback, guys. Okay, I've got 2 cups of coffee. I've only got one mouth to work with. I'm still stuck with a bit of a problem. They say I'm short-handed. You're short-handed if you don't have enough hands. I got enough hands. I don't have enough mouths. Yeah, LA, I really do. I've been knowing, like when I was working for the restaurants, when I was working in the hospitality industry, it was normal for me to have 3 or 4 coffee on the go at the same time because I'd forget where I put my coffee cup, so I'd grab another one. Fortunately, I don't mind cold coffee, and of course, considering the fact that I don't add cream to it, it can sit there for hours until it gets cold, and it won't do anything wrong. Yeah, Joseph goes, burnt beans drowned in water. The reality is, I like the flavor of coffee better than I like the flavor of chlorine. But when you take a look at the society around you, you have a much higher direct impact when you keep it to a small community count, a small head count, than you do if you take a look at the big picture. There's an African proverb that goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you change the mood of a community? One smile at a time. One kind word at a time. Sometimes it's just that one little thing that makes all the difference in the world to one person. And they can turn around, and go, this is where I'm heading. All of a sudden they reach out and help somebody next to them because they've had a slightly better day. Speaking of which, where is it? Not over there. We're going to have to look at this again. Now, we did this once already, but it looks like we're going to have to do it again. Wrong cover. Or wrong drawer, rather. I am looking for the pen that I require. What is that? I don't know. Of course, it's behind me. Pen I'm looking for is right here. Turn around, go looking for a different pen. There's an idea. I've got the pen right beside me. So, like I said to you on the phone there, Nathan, we will get this out to you as soon as we can, which won't be tonight because, well, they're closed. Just hopefully the next one actually stays with you. But I do know how to disguise it a little better. But this one will be going out ASAP, just like the last one did. Just unfortunately, not all people are decent. Okay, so we're going to do what we can to compensate for that. Well, ultimately, yes. Nathan goes, whoever got the book, I hope they enjoy it and spread the word. Bright side, right? Absolutely. Absolutely there, Nathan. You can look at the world and go, oh, I got ripped off, or I didn't get what I paid for, or I didn't get what I deserve, or what have you. We can look at the negative side. I look at it going, it's a delay. Absolutely. Annoys me to no end. And that is quite possible. LA goes, maybe it's their last chance. Wish them luck. Wish them well. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that, all ideas are out there, somewhere. Now, I'm not unique. Well, actually, that's not entirely correct. Every one of us is unique. But the impact that every one of us has on the local society is pretty much the same. Okay, one person cannot change the world, but one person can, just like one stone an avalanche does not make, but one person can start a transformation. One stone can start an avalanche. Preferably, if I'm going to watch an avalanche happen, I'd rather watch it happen with only one small rock coming down on me, okay, than watching the whole mountainside come down. Okay, it's not fun being caught in an avalanche. Okay, one running horse does not a stampede make, but a whole herd of them can cause all kinds of problems, even more so if they happen to be water buffalo. But it depends on how you look at the world as far as what you see as the society you're working in. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Nathan goes, at first I was thinking Big Brother or shadow banning. Now I'm thinking, since it was meant to happen, it will open somebody else's mind. It'll open somebody else's mind some. And I agree with you wholeheartedly there. And this is why I figure I've got them in stock. I would turn around and just go, okay, it's a pain. It absolutely is. It's disappointing. But in over 200 books going out, this is the first one I've heard of that went missing. Which realistically is not a bad ratio. But it's still annoying. Yeah, and that's an excellent way to look at it, Nathan. There are times when finances are an issue, and you go, "Well, that was all I could afford. Now I can't have it." Okay, and that is a possibility. I look at it going, it's a pain in the neck, but I've still got a bunch in stock, and and I think I mentioned this at the beginning. I just talked to my artist in England. He is shipping me he is getting the next 2 covers out because we're already closing in on finishing them. So that's all being adjusted as well. But the more positive influence that you can have, the more you can look at the world and go, yes, bad things certainly happen. Some teams will lose sports events, but good things and more good things happen in this world than bad ones. Yeah, I will absolutely do that, LA. I'm going to be working on my finances tonight, so I will mark that in as a definitive. It went missing. Okay, absolutely, I will. It was funny. I had to go into my account and go, okay, I've never been in a situation where I didn't have a steady paycheck. What do you require to do this right? Yeah. A stolen book, it is a way of balancing karma. Yes, absolutely it is there, Nathan. Because every time you do something good, it stacks up. Every time you do something bad, even if it was something bad in your childhood, it still leaves a balance. And the idea is to do more good in this world than you do bad. In other words, help more people than you hinder. And I know many people have done things in the past that hurt people. Many of you may be glowing individuals right now, but maybe your childhood was a little hiccuped. Okay, my life has not been perfect by any functional stretch. Okay, and like I said, I spent 55 years hiding from the world. Now I'm coming out going, okay, let's see what we can do about changing this. Let's see what we can do about having a positive impact on people. Okay, and just simply turning the light on and saying, hey, this is what you can do. But again, the best tools in the world are absolutely useless if you don't actually pick them up. That's just the reality behind it. Okay, so in a nutshell, when we take a look at societal economics and the individual, instead of looking at your society as your whole country or the whole city, pare it down to your house to start with, then your local neighbors, the neighborhood. The smaller the area you're looking at, the bigger the quantifiable impact is going to be. Okay, think of it this way. If you're only counting 4 houses and one of those houses is short on food, okay, by simply helping that one person, you're making that one household, you're having an impact on 25% of the community, just like that. If there's a million people in the city, one impact isn't that big, but it is nonetheless extremely important. Okay. Now, with that in mind, we are just hitting the 2-hour mark here. I want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with me, guys. Really do appreciate it. And again, if you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. Okay. Now, I will be back tomorrow. I think tomorrow's Thursday. What is today? I'm just checking what today actually is. Today's Wednesday, okay. So tomorrow I won't be on, but I will be on Friday. And I will be posting tomorrow what we're looking at there. Okay, but until we talk again, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.